This is QSafe, and I'm going to show you how easy it is to set it up once you've downloaded it from the website. This is the Windows version. Mac is a little bit different. We select Standard or Pro if you are a safety consultant. Our next step is to set up the company trading name. We add one letter per block, and if there is a space, we insert an underscore to separate the letters. We can now check what it looks like over there, and if you have a license key already, you can add this in here. You'll be asked to check the contents with that name there, and we proceed. We can now insert company information and your logo. Try and get the logo to fit in there as best as you can, and ideally with a transparent background, being a PNG or a JPEG. Do not use anything else, please. Our next step is to insert names of management and supervisors and team leaders. You can put as much as you want here, but you can update this later as well. Now we have appointments. So it is important that different people get appointed to certain roles. They get appointed by an appointor, and what's on this list is a recommended list. You can change these later, but this is common for South Africa, construction related industries, and we can add in the names here. And you see there's nothing there. Well, he's the CEO, so he can't really appoint himself commonly, so he's a responsibility rather than an appointment, so there's only one, and that's him. In these roles here, very often it's common that one person is doing all the appointing, and very often there again it's common that that one is the same person or might be varied. But to save you time, we have this button here to copy to all, and likewise you do the same with that column there. It copies the name in the second row. These you can now change them to be the correct person, or you can just type them in manually. It's okay. And on going to next, we now build the safety management system for the company. In choosing this project, we go to what we call the home page, and this is where you're able to maintain all the aspects of your safety management. And the best way to do that is to start off with company details. You check your logo looks okay and your addresses and details there. You can then insert your company documents, for example, a letter of good standing. You'll right click that and select insert picture. Please make sure they are a JPEG and not a PDF. You can add in confirmation of bank account, VAT details, and other documents can go in there too by adding a document. Next, we'll go to the people. We've already added those in. You can now add in more if you have more. We can now go to each individual person's details and add a training skill. So here we go and add them in there. And there we need to insert a picture, and it is a JPEG, please. And we can add in a second one. And then we can add in the detail of what that is. We put in the date it was done, its renewal date, and whether competency has been achieved. And we can do that for all the other certificates. Once you've done the employee information, our next step is to go to select who is going to be on a project. In this case, being a company system, everyone is included. We're going to edit that. They're already selected, and we can continue that. So we can double check it that way. You can then build a company organogram, your reporting structure, put in the names of the people here, and of course then the training register. Now we started installing this person's details here. We can now add more in as well. We can add in a certificate, and we add them in on the yellow block on the right. So in this case, it's a first aid certificate. It's Emily, and you fill in the details here. The date completed, and then the date expiry. If there's no expiry date, just hit the no expiry. But something like first aid will expire. And date format is year first, then month, then date. That is current, so that is good. And if we go back, she's now added onto the list, and you do that with all your other certificates as well. Moving on, we have POPIA documentation, and best read that to see what's there, and every person needs to sign that. We can add in medical certificates here. There again, scan them in. And then we come to appointments. Now you recall when we set up, we put the appointments in. These are our default people, and these can be edited in the Edit Default Appointment section. And that also allows you to add in extra sections as well by selecting Add. We'll go back. And these are added in. Now you can edit these here, which is great. Bear in mind, these are for your company, your safety management system. If it is for a project, it might be a different name. So you might have the default ones, but bring a different name. But for now, we keep those as they are. And you can now go into any of these appointments and see the actual content of what will be provided. Our next step is to check on the project. Well, the project is your company safety management, start date, end date, and you can update these as well. And of course then policy. So there's lots of policies in the system. And all the policies, and like with many other documents, they are stored in the policy library. There they are, there are hundreds of them, all lined up there ready for you to use. And there again, the ones that are selected, pre-selected by us, are included here, which makes things easy for you. And you can add in as many as you want. Add in a document, see, add document to project. So if you have a special need for policy, you can pop that in there. But for now, we're going to keep to the standard. And we can also check on date effective, review dates, and whether for these particular documents you want to include a sign sheet. In this case, yes, we actually do. There's a project health and safety plan, and this covers many different sections. You can edit these here. There again, these are common, they're standard. For now, don't worry about them, but do know that you can change those, and you can change the set that you import as well. But more about these at a later stage. The fall protection plan, bear in mind this is the company one, but you might have step ladders there. We'll do that now. We're going to choose A-frame ladders, because you might use A-frame ladders within the company itself. Bear in mind the project, you might be on scaffolding, so you add in the scaffolding option. So once done, we then choose our risk assessments, and we can import those from a library. There again, we have a huge library to choose from, and I'm just going to select that one there, which is, pops it in. And these are now preset risk assessments. But there is a detailed video on this, and I suggest you watch that at a later stage when you get into doing your own risk assessments. The method statement is pretty straightforward, and there are a range, there again, a library of those to choose from, or you can create your own by adding them in there. In this case, I'm just going to bring in a standard one that's there to show you how it's done. If you're non-construction, it will change as well, or it can be construction. If you have subcontractors, they'll sign the subcontractor management agreement. If you are the subcontractor, then the chance are this will be given to you by your client. And then we have toolbox talks. So that's very important for training. We can add those to a project, and here you will select which ones we want. You see here, these are marked in green are the commonly used ones. What's common to one might not be to the other. You can choose your own in the library, and you select what you're wanting to include in this particular set of documents. We'll choose those. We continue. Now add them in. You can add in pictures and attachments as well. Next will be safe operating procedures. Same process. You can now import those from the library. A good collection of them there. There again, create your own. We want drills, ladders, and we have a forklift as well, so we can pop those in. Safe work procedures. This is a safe work procedure as opposed to a safe operating procedure. Now, an operating procedure is you'll operate a drill, an electric drill. A safe work procedure is building a wall using an electric drill and other tools. So again, we import those from the library. There you go, an extensive selection of items which you can then add your own. We are on machinery, so putting those two over there, we pop them in. And these are now for our system. Vehicles, always good to monitor your vehicles and keep them up to date as far as their registration numbers and that information, they come in there. And you can also create inspections as well. Incidents, you must record those all the time, whether it's an incident, a near miss, or an accident, what they refer to as events. We can add pop in 10 rows there just to make things easier for us for our first bunch. Likewise with our hazardous substances, there's a library of those. We can now add from the library there So let's say unleaded fuel, and it pops it in. Checklists are there, PPE register, add in what's been issued, when, what, who, name the size, and that helps you record notes of what size worked for people, so you can easily refer to these later on. And of course then your assets and tools can come in here as well, so you can sit and play with those. We have copies of the Health and Safety Act as well as the construction regulations and a few other registers there as well. So once those are done, we go to our project index, and this is the whole list of documents that we'll go through. You can go through each of these as we go along. What's on the left is what you print, what's on the right is how you edit that, but best look at that section on indexes later on once you're going. But the best thing is to try it out, have a look through it and see what's there, and then get into more detail later on. Good luck.